Hi everybody, welcome again to another program of Yeshiva Classroom, shedding light on the beautiful divinely given Torah that was given to the Jewish people in front of 3 million Jewish people who stood there. And the theme that we're going to talk about today is God's covenant, what Jews agreed to, what the Jews agreed to regarding God's covenant with the Jewish people. So where do we begin? Where do we begin? You know, God wanted an oracle, so to speak, a contact on this planet Earth with individuals so that they should not go astray. You know, you can't drive a car in a 10-mile-an-hour speed limit zone going 100 miles an hour. And that's what it is with God. God wanted the order. He wanted some order in the life of the individuals, the life that he created on this earth. And he started with Adam, and he spoke with him about eating the tree and the fruit, and it didn't work out. And so he went to Noah, and he gave him 7 commandments that he should live by, and that the people should learn, and he should teach them. But you know, by the way, those 7 commandments that were given to Noah were also included in the 613 commandments to the Jewish people that were given later on. But the point we want to make is that God gave man free will, and he wanted him to live a beautiful life, a happy life, and have his soul returned in a upbeat, a better shape than when it was given. And that we know that from the book of Genesis, right? There are 5 books in the divinely given Torah, aka Old Testament, but it was given to the Jewish people at Mount Sinai. 3 million people stood there. Nowhere else is it given or spoken of as a God-given words to a people like the Jewish people who stood in front of Mount Sinai and heard the words of God, heard the sound that came to them in the form of words. So that's very unique. No other quote-unquote religion can make that claim that God came to the entire people. So let's backtrack a little bit. So, you know, we had Adam, we had, it didn't work out, the people were chaos. You know, it says over there in 4:7 in Genesis, write these down. In Genesis chapter 4, verse 7, it says, the inclination of man is evil from his youth. The inclination of a man is evil from his youth. Meaning that there is the topic of free will, and in order to accrue points, God has sent the evil inclination to tempt you. That's in 4:7. So in chapter 8:21, it says sin crouches at the door. Its desire is for you. Sin crouches at the door. Its desire is for you. And just like the door, if it opens up a little bit and you walk in, the evil inclination is right behind. Sin crouches at the door, and its desire is to you. It was created for a purpose of making man, the soul of man, better when it is returned to God. And that's the sweet savor that we have on the korban, on the offerings, that the offering is, in, so to speak, a part of ourselves, that we want our souls to, just like the animal that represents us, that soul should go up. And a sweet savor to God, and a sweet smell, a sweet disposition that God will be able to enjoy. So that's the story. But the 7 mitzvahs of Noah which are included in the Bible, in the Torah, the divinely given Torah, is one that you should not make or worship idols. 2, you should not blaspheme the name of God, the creator of heaven and earth, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And you should not blaspheme, but with all due respect, have respect for it. And then the others that was given to Noah were should not kill, you should not commit adultery, you should not steal, and the last 2 is the commitment to set up courts of law to judge between right and wrong. And the last one is kindness to animals. Those 7 mitzvahs, those 7 commandments that was given to Noah, hopefully he would be able to fight the evil inclination and thereby earn holiness points, soul food, soul. You say, what is a soul? They operated on people and they couldn't find a soul. I'm going to give you a test like I gave you in a previous tape 472, that when you do a good deed, when you visit the sick and the dowering the bride and accompanying the dead, because it's a chesed shalemet, you're not going to get paid back for doing such a commandment, and doing all kinds of good deeds, you feel good. The deed that is equal to all of the previous ones that I gave is the learning of the Torah. Talmud Torah keneged kulam. That's equal to all of the previous deeds. So it didn't work out with Noah. The sin creeped in, crouches at the door, and as soon as it opened, it ran to do evil. So you feel your soul when you do those good deeds. That's a feeling. What is it? Your gut, your stomach, your brain. That's your soul. S-O-U-L. And those deeds that you do are the deeds that accumulate to God, to you, and you give them over to God. You report, you hand over to God at your demise after 120 years, and that sweet savor that comes out, that God is so happy with those people who have weathered the storm and, so to speak, and came through with passing marks. Rabbi Chaim Luzzatto says 70% mark is passing. So that's the purpose of our lives, to become aware of a God. You know, here I have an apple here, an apple over here, and what's so significant about this apple is that it has a impervious skin. The skin is waterproof. No water can get in it. It's not going to rot. Where can you find a packaging material like that? And that's what the apple has. And all the fruits have it, so that the insects and fungus won't be able to attack it, but it's there for man. And as we can see, the beautiful colors are tempting man to eat it. And it has a green, it's green when it's unripe and not particularly appealing. But when it's multicolored and red, green, and they have all kind of fruits with all their colors in them, it's appetizing. It's good to eat, and that's what God made it for. That man should get pleasure and be happy, and at the same time accrue holiness points. Now, so it didn't work out with Noah and the 7 commandments. The temptation, the evil inclination, just overpowered the descendants of Noah, most of them, and we see right away they built a tower of Babel, the Tower of Babel, where they wanted to attack God and reach up to heaven and to be his equal, not getting the knowledge that the purpose of this world and life is to live a life of guided by the principles of the Torah and of the 7 commandments of Noah, and that's who we say all the peoples of the righteous people of the world attain the next world, the soul world. The righteous of all nations attain the soul world. And it wasn't working out so well, because we see what happened to Adam, see what happened to Noah and his descendants, but there was one descendant through the descendants of Noah, his son Shem, and the generations that followed him was Shem and Pakshad and Eber and Peleg, Ruig, Serug, Nachar, and Terach, and Avram. There was 10 generations that were the righteous people who lived and were descendants in that order that I gave you. And Abraham was the final determinant, who was together with his heritage, Yichus, was chosen by God. God chose Abraham, and he saw, he was careful and looking at his resume, of Abraham's resume, where on his own he was able to set up altars, not to offer offerings, but to speak as a platform to the people who would ever hear him. that the world was created by a God who has no physical form, no physical form, and therefore he is chosen. And not like some of the other quote-unquote religions who have like a man God. Look, in Numbers chapter 23:19, it says over there, God is not a man, God is not a son of a man, and God is not fickle, right? And God is not fickle. He does not change his mind. Look, there's 1 billion Christians, there's over 1 billion Muslims, and they have gone astray in not following the 7 commandments of Noah, and not worshiping or for other reasons going away from the inborn qualities of right and wrong. Man, the soul of man was blown into the nostrils of man. The soul came from God in Genesis chapter 2 verse 7. God blew the soul of man into the nostrils of man. Why does it say nostrils? Okay, we'll go into that. But first I want to say that the investigation, so to speak, that God finally realized that Abraham was the one that he should be directed to carry out the order, O-R-D-E-R, order in this world. And his descendants were given a special spirit. You know, that's what, yeah, I'm going to have a couple thoughts come up at once. What do I do first? Yeah, a couple of, you know, God saw that Abraham on his own went around and set up altars in Genesis 12:8, and also Genesis 13:4. He set up altars to inform man that he was created, and that there's only one God, and a man should become aware and thereby worship him alone, because a man knows inwardly that there is a supreme being. And it was, you know, I'm getting a little tangential, but the point is, man, during the Middle Ages, built or set up a stone and slaughtered an animal, and they knew that he represented either a sun god or a moon god or a god of fertility, and he sacrificed and prayed sincerely. He prayed sincerely, and what happened? The Jews were caught up in that culture, just like today we're caught up in those cultures. So the Jews began to, not bamos, but they set up an altar wherever they felt the need to give gratitude, and they prayed to, whether it's a carving from a piece of wood, an idol or any other thing that they felt was important, even offering a sacrifices. So the Rambam came by and said the purpose of the offerings that we find in the Torah, in the book of Leviticus, is for man to be weaned away from those hilarious practices of the prevalent culture where the Jews find themselves in a minority. How so? How so does the slaughtering and offering of an animal as directed in Leviticus stop idol worshiping, praying to idols and praying to different hosts of God, whether it's in the sky, whether it's on the land, whether it's below the fish, below the seas. And how so? Because Rambam points out that yes, you can slaughter, offer sacrifices, but you have to bring it to a certain place that the Torah tells you. You have to have a kohen present. You have to have the slaughtering by a certain way, not like the prevalent culture was, they killed it in any which way. And you had to acknowledge that the blood is life and put it on the altar, and you got to walk it from the altar to the place, and to realize that you're going close to God, and also to arrange the parts of the bodies to show gratitude for all the parts that man is composed of. That man is composed of. You had to put the head a certain place, the limbs, the organs. So by doing this, it weaned a man, the Jewish man, away from the prevalent culture of setting up a stone and killing and praying. But you had a Jew had to bring it to a certain place. He had to slaughter it as God commanded you, and other rulings that the book of Leviticus gives when you slaughter, that you give when you slaughter. So that the sweet savor of the smoke goes up into the heavens, where God, so to speak, enjoys that sweet savor, meaning that the soul has grown significantly than when it was first given. Because over there, we only have 24 written books of the Bibles, and Ecclesiastes, or in Hebrew, Koheles, says in 12:7, the soul returns to God who gave it. The soul returns to God who gave it. So that's what we want to do in our lifetime, to have our soul return in a higher form than what we gave it, than when it was given to us by God. So those are significant, and those are significant points that Shlomo points out. While I'm on the book of Koheles, let me speak about the famous words that is given. It says over there that in the book of Ecclesiastes, or Koheles in Hebrew, says over there that there's a time for birth, there's a time for death, time to plant, time to uproot. What is it talking about over there? It's talking about the times when for instance, an infant is born, and we see the miracles that happened, that resulted in his birth, or we see a seed growing into a plant, time to plant, time to uproot. These are all significant points that King Solomon pointed out to us. Pointed out one of the 24 books that we are to live by. Those are our thoughts, God's instructions to the Jewish people, to live by them. But the Gentile only has 7 commandments. All nations of the world inherit the world to come, right? So he has 7 commandments. Look them up. Get a book by a Bible by Art Scrolls. Don't get any of these Mickey Mouse Bibles that they put in your room or in the hotel. Go for it. Spend a little art, A-R-T, Scrolls. Look it up on the internet. Get a Bible. Get one with the 24 books including the Tanakh, right? There are 24 written books of the Bible. And so it's interesting to note that when the Bible was given at Deuteronomy 31:24, check it out. See if I missed a point or so. Check it out. Deuteronomy 31:24. God dictated the Bible to Moses. Moses wrote 12 copies of it, gave it to each of the tribes, and one copy he kept with the Kohanim, the priests. One copy he kept with the priests. And that, you know, look, the Jews were in the desert for 40 years. For 40 years they were in the desert. They were learning. That was the Yeshiva Lamala. That was a yeshiva where they learned. And to help them, they had the book of the Midrash. And that helped explain some of the points that we might have misunderstood or not gotten. And the Medrash will enlighten us. But after a while, in the next generation, so to speak, in generations, they came up with the with the Mishnah or the Zohar. The Zohar. There's another book that those generations compiled because they shed light that maybe was not included in the Medrash that preceded it. You had the Medrash, the Zohar, and you have the Mishnayos, right? And 70 Common Era, CE. Jew is not to speak only in Common Era, CE, and BCE, before the Common Era. So that's significant. But the point is that we are trying to get our soul back to where it originated in a higher form. Now, as I said, the Gentile can do the same thing with only the 7 mitzvahs, the 7 commandments of Noah. Look, it's in the Bible. The first book of the first chapter is Genesis and Bereshit, and then came Noah. So you can look at the 7 commandments that he was given. But God knew, look, what happened over there? Yeah, I'm stepping ahead of myself here. What happened when God knew that Abraham would teach his sons and his household the ways of God, of charity, justice, and kindness? That's in chapter 18 in Genesis, verse 19, right? For I know Abraham will teach his sons, children, and household the ways of God. Now, that's rather significant. How does God know what man is going to choose? Well, we can answer that in saying that man has free will. And we can answer that by saying that free will means that man has the ability to think out of the box. Not like animals, or the squirrel, or the rhinoceros. Man thinks out of the box. And he wants to do good, right? And God knows it. So God knows he's going to do good in the future, and he's going to make a contract, a covenant. He's going to make a covenant with the Jewish people, with Abraham's descendants. And the covenant that God made was that the land of Canaan I'm giving to the Jewish people, the descendants of Abraham, and also they will be very populous in numbers. And he told Abraham to go outside and to count the stars, how numerous they will be. Look, you're going outside, you're going inside. You're not going to be able to count the stars. But that teaches us his toddlers, man's input. Man has to do something too, also. So he went outside. The same thing with Moshe. Moses went up onto the mountain and said, you can't enter because Moab, he was at Moab, you can't enter, but you can take a look and see all the land from this mountain, this high point. And it's impossible to see all the land from one point. But it teaches us a man is a partner in his toddlers, in doing and making God's givings to man. He is a partner in that free will. So, we spoke about the Bible, that was Torah, aka Old Testament, was given to the Jewish people. They stood there in front of Sinai. It was given to them to follow. And we know that God had made a covenant with the Jewish people in chapter 15 in Genesis. Like a kinyan, an acquisition, and a vision. Abraham saw that God commanded him to slaughter 3 animals, was it the goat, the sheep, and the calf, and divide them into 2, and a pigeon and a turtle dove, and do not divide them, and a fire and the smoke. Fire is God, the burning bush, fire on Mount Sinai, and fire that Nadav and Avihu, that fire came down and consumed their sacrifices, and also It consumed them. Fire represents God, and a burning furnace represents the Jewish people giving korbanos, the sweet savor that God enjoys so much from His creations. So what pops into my head now? So we're going on the way, and after 400, God said that your people will be mistreated for 400 years. Why mistreated for 400 years if God picked them to choose what to spread God's name and God's power and God's all with all? Why suffer for 400 years? I'm going to leave that for you, audience, to ask your rabbi to explain why they should suffer for 400 years and they should go out with great substance. So God made that covenant, and the sign of this covenant is that every male should be circumcised at 8 days old, and we still hold that practice, even though we've been exiled from one country to the next country. There are certain things, certain teachings that we will set up, that the Spirit of God has put in us, that no matter where we are or what we have, we'll still set up an educational system. Is it no wonder that we have so many people coming to convert to Judaism from the nations? Although you can do it with seven mitzvahs. And when I'm talking about converting, I'm not talking about these Mickey Mouse reform, conservative, reconstruction, all these kind of reinventing, improving the wheel. We don't need them. They die out by the wayside. But an orthodox, whatever that means, orthodox, you want to convert, you got to go in the ways of the teachings of the Torah, because it says over there. I get so many sidetracked points. It says over there, the Egyptians enslaved us for 210 years of hard labor. Yet, all in all, we allow, the Torah says, we allow the Egyptians to convert to Judaism. And many did so. But Amalek, who was evil, and also did an evil act in that he horrifically killed the weak and the stragglers and the infirm people who left Egypt. And one time he did it, maybe twice. One time, not 210 years, but one time he attacked those people, and for that reason his name was to be blotted out forever. Whenever the name and descendants of Amalek are brought to fore, we're to block them out and blot them out and not have a remembrance. So there's the kasha. There's the kasha that you have right in front of your eyes. That what is the kasha? The kasha is, how come 210 years they can re-enter? That's Egyptian goyim, and Amalek, those descendants, if their name has to be blotted out. That's the kasha. You feel good when you get a kasha, right? What's that feeling, right? We said that's your soul accumulating good deeds. And the best deed is learning Torah, and that's why I like to see Torah centers set up in the synagogue where the congregants don't come in there solely to say a bunch of words and then eat the cholent and go home to sleep. No, they have to have time for learning every day. Every day you have to learn, right? Talmud, Torah, Keneged Kulam. So here we are. God gave two of the principles of the covenant, right? They being the land of Canaan. They were evil, the people in Canaan. They offered service, all kinds of human offerings, sacrifices, and killings. And look at Deuteronomy chapter 9. Not because you are so righteous, but God made a covenant. And the problem was that, why did Jews suffer so much? You look in chapter 33 in Exodus, and the Jews came out of the situation with the golden calf. It was we were forgiven. Our forefathers were forgiven, and we pray and I'll go over this part in the Torah every fast day when it says Vayachel, and the Jews were prayed profusely V'yinochem, and later on it says in that subject, in that chapter, God will reconsider. God will reconsider, and He will take it into consideration when He makes His final accounting. When He makes His final accounting. So, what we're looking for now is that what here it is, God's covenant, what Jews agreed to. Now, we know that God gave us those two principles that we enumerated, the land and a strong people, but I wanted to go back a step in saying that, how come Jews suffer so much? And, in chapter 33, verse 17, it says, God, one of the requests that Moses had was that I want you personally, God, to accompany us. And God said that it will be it'll be detrimental to you, because I will punish when I see transgressions, and the entire people will punish. So Moshe says, I don't care. I want you to come personally with us, and he did, and God does come to us and personally, and that's why we have suffering, because throughout, if the Jewish people are transgressing, then even the righteous suffer, right? The angel of death skips over the houses on Passover for those that have the sign on the doorpost, but another time he does not skip over. All Jews are equal, whether they're observant or not. So what happened? God said to them, to complete the covenant, I want you to do the following. And he brought them in front of Mount Sinai. The entire people, not like a few people heard, but the entire people heard the Ten Commandments, the Torah being given. And then he said, Ve'ele mishpatim, and included, and ve'ele, and these civil laws are to be acknowledged and to observe. Torts, civil laws, responsibilities, liabilities. That's Torah, judges, courts, and with a law book, right? They got the Ten Commandments and the Torah. You got the mishpatim between people, and chapter 20, 21, 22, 23. Do not accept an evil report. Do not extend your hand to the to the evil, listen to a person who has a grievance, and don't go after them. The majority that are bent on destroying this grievance, but listen to him. And then in 24 it says set up altars. Let the young men from the 12 tribes come down before God, and monoliths, monoliths, monoliths were set up, and the young men, that's before Levi took over, then the young men set up korbanos, offerings, and they ate and drank with the vision of God present. They saw the vision of God, the korbanos, eating and drinking, and God was happy, and so we were happy when we had the korbanos. That's in 24. So then it says over there, look at chapter 24 in Exodus. What does it say over there? It says over there in 24, Exodus, that say all of these things. God talking to Moses. Say all of these things to the people assembled. And there were Gentiles there also who came out when they saw all the miracles that was done on behalf of the Jews. And read it to them. And he read it to them. And then he said, write it in a book, Sefer HaBris, the book of the covenant. This is included in the covenant. The question, God's covenant, what Jews agreed to. What the Jews agreed to. And that's in the book of the covenant, Sefer HaBris. That was later incorporated into the Torah. But the point is, that's the covenant that God made. He gave us 2 points, and we gave us, and we will observe the other points that we just mentioned, right? And that's what it says in chapter 24. And what did Jews answer? Na'aseh v'nishma. We will do and we will learn and understand. That's what it said. That's what it's incumbent on us. Well, I'm way far removed from that generation. Oh, but you're not, because it says every day in the davening, emes v'yatziv, all those beautiful words that was given to us at Sinai are part and parcel of the succeeding generations. Because Isaiah, that we said, every day, the book we quote, it says, the spirit I put into you and the words I put into your mouth should not depart from now and forever. That's the Jewish people. So who doesn't want to become part of the Jewish people in the correct way? Who doesn't want part of that spirit? Again, we say it every day in the morning davening, Uvala Sion. It says, the spirit that I put upon you and the words I put in your mouth shall not depart from you, your son, your son's son, for all the Jewish people from now and forever. We say that every day. And, you know, the thing is, you know, certain things pop into my head and it may not be so apropos, but we were talking about Nadav and Avihu. This was done on April the 4th or the 5th on a Thursday. This was compiled and pre-recorded. So, in that Sedra Shemini that we read, this coming that Shabbos coming, it says Nadav and Avihu were stricken with a strange fire because they had an idea that let's improve on something that God gave us. And they offered strange fire, and fire entered their nostrils, and they were killed. There's another kasha. But how about Moshe? Moshe came down the mountain with the stone tablets, and he saw the people cavorting around the golden calf, and he threw them down and broke it into pieces. By the way, those broken pieces, are in the ark, in one of the layers of the drawers of the ark. So how come Moshe was not? He went out of script. He wasn't supposed to do that. He wasn't supposed to break the tablets. That's the kasha. So that you feel good about, right? It's a stira. It seems like a something that's not the same. And the answer is that Nadav and Avihu were koyanim. They guarded the teachings of the Torah from the time it was given throughout the generations. You can't change the Kohanim and the Ark and the Torah that they guard are not to be tampered with. But Moshe, he was a prophet, and prophets can change in order to get the message across. So Moshe was all right what he did. You like that, Kasha? Again, why does Nadav and Avihu? Why were they killed when they acted out of script? When Moshe threw the tablets down, acted out of script, and he was not punished because in one, Kohanim are guarders of the Torah, and there's no changes being made in their teachings and what they can innovate. But Moshe was a prophet. It was all right what he did because you can change. Prophet changes according to what he feels is correct. Now we want to go into free will. Free will is very important that God gave us for our pleasure and for perfection. And free will means the ability for man to choose between right and wrong, and to get pleasure from doing the correctness. Let me give you an example. Like, when a person made $1 million through all kinds of manipulations and being and choosing at the right time and what to invest in and what have you, and he had pleasure. He talks about it as compared to a person that inherited $1 million, but he talks about all the steps that he took when he was accumulating all his wealth. And bear in mind that wealth is from God. God gives you the strength to succeed. That's in chapter 8 in Deuteronomy. God gives you the strength to succeed. It's all from God. It's not such a good example because that's all from God. But if we do something good and really go out there and did something great and it was successful, whether it's a synagogue or what have you, it was a good feeling that we got from that from those teachings, from those steps. So that's what that's what's so important. And it's also for our perfection, because we want to earn, and we are constantly being tested. You know, Abraham was given 10 trials before he was finally accepted by God. And so it says over there in Deuteronomy 8:2, chapter 8, verse 2, look it up. It says over there that I afflicted you and tested you to whether you kept the commandments or not. I afflicted and tested you to see whether you kept the commandments under duress. And that earns points for us, the suffering, and not go away from the teachings of the Torah. So all of those count towards perfection and the soul world, because this is what we live for. It's not, accumulation of wealth, but it's to live by the precepts of the Torah. Now over there, the dusty truck, the caissons go rolling along. Look, when it talks about anti-Semitism, anti-Jewish, that's the top reward? Subtly and persistently, it's the BBC. BBC World News. Anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish, put it that way, put it mildly, the BBC. They report things that they want to report, and only substantiated by Israel proving what it says it did. But by the Arabs, they can claim all kinds of killings that Israel perpetrated, and they ascribe that as God-given words. How can they determine how many people were killed before the day is up? But BBC reports it, and they dwell on it, and they dwell on the fact that they suffer greatly. And what about the kidnappings? Not hostages, kidnappings. Who cares about the kidnappers? Who wants to worry about them? Where should be the strength of the hand of God on their souls? Release the kidnapped people, and the world come to an end. They're kidnappers, and the world can't say that. They can't. They're holding ransom, and the Jews realize that their only friend is the one up above. The only friend is the one up above. It says the first of the 10 commandments that was given to the Jewish people at Sinai says that I am the Lord your God. Speaking to the Jewish people. The Lord your God, who took you out of the land of the house of Egypt, from the house of bondage. God performs miracles on this world. He takes part in bringing out the Jewish people to be, I am the Lord your God, who took you out from the house of bondage to be your God. And that's the God that we have. All the other things that they say they got from wherewithal, if they want to believe it, want to believe those epiphanies. But with the Jewish people, they stood 3 million in front of Mount Sinai, and they saw the lightning and the thunder and the fire of God when He gave these teachings over. So those are some of the things that we want to implant on you. And I want to urge those listeners to call me or to sit with a friend and review this tape. Sit with a friend and review this tape, because I see we're running out of time. So there's a lot to talk about, but I wish you all the best Pesach and thank God, pray sincerely, learn. Talmud Torah is equal to all. So with that, I'm going to close. And remember what this famous sage Hillel said. We didn't even go over a time for the Talmud. Talmud says, but you can buy this English Talmud at 718-921-9000. 718-921-9000. Or get it at the bookstore, Z. Berman, or any, so you can learn on yourself. Let art school be a rabbi. With that, I'm going to end with the famous words of Hillel, which says, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I? If not now, when? Start reading, learning, do this, etc. Everybody's on a different level. Send this tape, get a friend to listen to it also, because it has a lot of very good material in it. With that, I want to wish you a kosher, ha-kosher Pesach, and all the best that we should continue in fighting ignorance and bringing God amongst us. With that, I wish you all the best.